What? What? Is this it? Yeah, this is the one. Sorry, guys. I forgot to make a thumbnail. So that's on me. Sorry I'm late. I should probably grab the stream really quick and pop it into the Discord. Um, I do think it's very funny that I still have multiple issues with video monetization on this channel that just started popping up like 2 weeks ago. But you know what? It is what it is. And I wanted to. I considered not doing a stream tonight. I'll be honest, because I am going going through all the Bigfoot stuff for a video. Initially, the plan was to do one huge Bigfoot video, but we decided on doing a series instead, because good Lord Almighty, is there a lot of Bigfoot. There is so much Bigfoot out there that you would not believe it. Like, just going through the 20th century hoaxes that alleged to be Bigfoot was rather absurd, to be honest. So, it's it's gonna be several videos. I'm just gonna say that right now. Thing is, they'll be fun videos. I'm very excited to be doing them, and I'm just popping a message into the chat right now. See, send now. Publish, confirm. There we go. All right, all that squared away. What we ended up deciding on was the way we're going to do this is it's going to be the first video. Also, I have some, like, crystallized rumple mints. I'm scared, but, like, oh my, ooh. Forbidden droplets. I'm not gonna put those in my mouth. But yeah, so the way we're gonna be doing the video for the Bigfoot video is that we're going to go through basically the different levels of what Bigfoot is, of understanding Bigfoot. So that's, man, what's the way to put this? First video is going to be kind of an introduction to the concept. Where did we get the idea of Bigfoot as we understand it in the 21st century? Then, sorry, I'm a little sick too. Then video number 2 is going to go into, at the very least, Native American accounts, but probably also frontier accounts. Or we'll do Native American, then frontier. And then the final video will go into, not the final video, but the second to last video will go into the science, the DNA testing, the anatomy of how could this possibly work. Is there an evolutionary possibility here? So we're going to go through that, and then there will be a final, end-all, be-all Bigfoot video that goes up at the end of that. So that'll probably be 5 or 6 months off. And my headphones turned off again. I also was able to clean up my my For You page. It's no longer showing me thoughts, which is, good. The real origin of the 12 tribes of Israel, that's something I probably shouldn't touch. That's something that'll probably just piss me off, if we're being honest here. But yeah, so today I wanted to go over some Bigfoot sightings, talk about like the Patterson Gimlin tape, which is where we're actually going to start, because I actually haven't quite made it to this yet. I was going to, but you guys can't see what's on screen at the moment, so let me get that up for you. Boom. There you go. Now you can see. And yeah, so that's Here, I'll show you what I meant though by I've managed to clean up. See? No more thirst traps. Just good old solid content. Um Also, I'm gonna cue that up just because I know it's gonna piss me off. And I know you guys like to see me pissed off. I know that entertains you. So, but I wanted to start here. We're gonna look at a few different versions of this because there's a stabilized one, there's an unstabilized one, there's the unedited version, and there's a lot that goes into the Patterson Gimlin tape, and I'm gonna pull that one up as well. And when I say there's a lot that goes into it, what I mean is that they weren't just out there for a hike that day. They weren't just hanging out on the trail. They were allegedly, and I'll say this: if you're gonna fake something, and the general consensus on this tape is that it is in fact fake, but if you're gonna fake something, one of the things I always point out is, why was that person filming? Why'd they even have a camera? Today, why'd they have a camera is a much easier question to answer. Back in the 1960s, if you had a camera with you, you had a reason to have a camera with you. So, what they did was they said they were filming a cowboy movie. And so that's why they were out on the trail that day, is they were filming for their indie cowboy movie, allegedly. I'm going to say this right now. I have not gone in depth into the Patterson Gimlin side of things yet. That is what I was going to do tonight if I did not have to stream, so I'll be hitting that first thing tomorrow, and then going into the local native legends. This is going to be a cool one. You guys are going to like this video. So we're going to go into the local native legends about, all right, so what do the Yurok people say? What do the Kurak people say? Because there's some stories about what they called Indian devils or mountain devils, and this is, to a lot of people, the genesis of Bigfoot. These miners and loggers out there in Northern California, back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, even probably back to the 20s, they were aware of these local legends about large, hairy people who lived out in the wilderness. However, what is large and hairy for your average Native American is not what is large and hairy for your average European, because Native Americans, by and large, have considerably less hair than we do. Also, in terms of, I haven't gone into this quite yet, but average height of pre-contact Pacific Northwest natives. Wonder if we'll 5 feet 8 inches. So that's plains, but yeah, 67. So we're talking here what might have been, if we're talking about 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", what is giant to a population like that could very well be 7.5 feet. Getting into the 1920s, what's going to be giant to a white American is going to be different. The term giant's going to have a different connotation for European Americans. We're going to think about ogres and trolls and things like that. We're going to think Jack and the Beanstalk. Native Americans, they might be thinking somebody who's 8 or 9 feet tall. Probably not even that high, probably 7 or 8 feet tall. So what's important, and this gets me a lot of flack, because I'll be like, okay, well, you need to... A lot of conservatives will give me flack for this, but it's, the whole... A lot of what we believe about Native American stories does involve us imposing our own cultural background onto it. They don't have that. They don't have Jack and the Beanstalk. They don't have Hansel and Gretel. They might have their own versions, and in many cases, they actually do have stuff that's along the same lines, but it's rarely that same exact story. So when European Americans think giant, we think, 9 feet tall would be a small giant, Native Americans might have a completely different concept of large in these stories. And I'm not saying that they necessarily did, but... And this is actually one thing where I get nailed from both sides, because I'll say, well, you need to understand that the Native Americans had different concepts of things. There were certain things that they couldn't even articulate because they didn't have the words for it. On the other hand, you had white Americans who didn't bother to ask, hey, when you say giant, how tall are you talking? you know? J.W. Burns did that, actually. He was a Canadian, and he was interviewing the Chehalis people about Chehalis, something like that. I never get the pronunciation right, but he was interviewing those people about the Saskats, what became the Sasquatch, and they told him 6.5 to 7.5 feet. So when somebody actually bothered to ask, they got a much more reasonable answer than when you look at the current belief set, which is that these things are 9 foot tall ape men. I think the native version is a lot closer to a rather large, clan of people. Perhaps a leftover from a bygone era of humanity, or perhaps just, we've got pygmies in Africa, and we've got super tall people in Africa, and that's just one continent. So, I mean, the Dutch in general are, like, on average 6'5". Height can vary, and there's no reason to think that height couldn't vary that much to be up to the, 7-foot average area. I do have some super chats in here. Is there a Yuba County stream with Wendigoon coming? I texted him. I have not heard back. I will go back to my old refrain of, if I've said I want to do something with Isaiah, and he said he wants to do something, and it hasn't happened yet, chances are our schedules haven't lined up, or he simply has not received the message, because the guy, I'm sure, I have, right at this very moment, 307 unread text messages. I used to be the kind of guy who never had any notifications, ever, because I checked them all immediately. Now I'm a guy with 307 text messages, 16 Twitter notifications, 12 Instagram notifications, 1 Facebook, 344 TikTok, 6 Snapchat, and my email is just terrifying. 104,000 unread emails. So, I don't hold it against the guy when he doesn't get back to me about something for a little while. He's always there when it counts, though. Let's see. Kellen said Big Fussy putting them grippies out there for free. Oh my god. Oh boy. Yes, one of the Yule lads did have a thing for Skir, JD Petty. King of Common for 5 said, do you think Bigfoot is more supernatural or more a different branch of humans? I think if Bigfoot exists, then it's one of two things, and it is firmly within one of those two camps. Either Bigfoot is a divergent hominid, probably divergent Homo sapiens hominid, or a Homo sapiens tribe that just grew very large, or wild men out in the wilderness. I think if it's a physical manifestation of anything, if it's a physical corporeal being, I think it's one of those things, either individual wild men, tribes of primitive humans, or a divergent hominid, in which case it's very unlikely that it still survives to this day. On the other hand, if it is something more along the paranormal, I basically have to argue that this is angels, I guess, is the only thing that fits. Being able to take physical form on Earth and walk around and touch things and move things. Only thing I can think of is angels. But I mean, like I said, I am 95 to 5. In fact, I will say I am 50-50 that this is real at all. And I am 95 to 5 that if it is real, it's a physical person or creature. I do not believe for a moment that Bigfoot looks like this. Sorry. Not for a second are you going to convince me that Bigfoot is, and part of the reason is that you constantly see this stuff where it's like, oh, they found one. But yeah, there's I don't believe Bigfoot looks like that if Bigfoot's real. I feel like we'd have found evidence. There would be skulls, there would be something to prove it, and I just don't buy it. So let's first take a look at the Patterson Gimlin footage, which where's the unedited one? Was this? On October. That's what most likely happened. Here's the rare unedited version of the film. It was shot in either 16 or 18 frames per second. Fun fact. Oh, thank you, Nikki. Briley B said, for 10, fun fact for you, Aiden, my classmate it looks like a clone of you. Showed him a video of yours last night, and he and my other classmates agreed. Wild. I mean, I am a pretty generic-looking white guy with glasses, so, to be fair, but, yeah, let's see. So this is the unedited video, shot in either 16 or 18 frames per second from a handheld, camera, obviously on film. It was 1967. And as you can see here, plodding along with his horse and his donkey and his cowboy garb. The digitizing process was not kind to this footage, if it was ever decent, that is. So we see that there's this sort of, like... They were filming other things. So either they were legitimately filming other things and happened upon this, or they weren't. And this was entirely deliberate and fake. There are a few details I'll get to as we get through this, though. I'm now imagining Bigfoot sitting on top of the stone that closed the tomb and saying, "Ladies, why are you crying? He's not here, he's risen." Yeah, and the other thing is that's important to note is that Patterson and Gimlin, at the time this was shot, were both Bigfoot believers already. And Bigfoot as a concept, as a named concept, the idea of Bigfoot specifically, was new at this time, only a decade. The term Bigfoot, so far as I can tell, first appears in print in the year 1958. In a October 6th article. There's several October 6th articles that mention it. But yeah, October 6th, 1958 appears to be the first time that we see the term Bigfoot in print. And the White Trash Panda said, "I'm not sure the universe can handle Mattis clones." Probably not. Yeah, I just wanted to clear that up, that these guys were Bigfoot believers at the time this was shot. And as I've said many times, I'm neither trying to prove or disprove Bigfoot's existence. I've seen things in my research that make me question if it's possible. I also don't think that Bigfoot, as it's portrayed, is legitimate. But yeah, I mean, it's clearly just B-roll for their cowboy movie at this point, right? Don't worry, people have touched up the video. I can try to reach out to Bob. The thing is, he's an old guy. He's set in his ways. Obviously, if he did fake it and hasn't come clean over the years, then I doubt he's going to come clean to me on a podcast. Also, it's very, very possible, since Patterson is the one that allegedly ordered the costume, if it is a costume, it's very possible that half the reason Gimlin was out there is that Bob didn't tell him what was going on. Or, sorry, not Bob. That Patterson didn't tell him that they were going to be faking this, and that it was completely out of the blue and random, and, you know, that was... It could be that Patterson was just very, very smart about faking this. The question is, if he did, why? And then here's the part where we start to see the thing. And I forget if it was Gimlin or Patterson. I think it was Gimlin who said that he feels like it wanted to be seen. Like it knew they were filming somehow. Or that they were at least there. Which, of course, for me, I'm like, no, it definitely didn't know they were filming. Because there's no way a Bigfoot creature had a concept of being filmed. Then here we go. So, I forget where the cut is exactly. So, obviously, it's not recording audio. What this appears to be is that whoever was filming, and I think it was Gimlin, was panning up, taking a look at the trees, and then whoever wasn't filming said, "Hey, look down there, which I believe was Patterson, but again, I'll check on it. No, do not. No Wendussy for you. But yeah, so this is the famous part of the tape. That's the frame where it looks right back at them. And this creek they're on, Bluff Creek, is the spot where the 1958 tracks were found. The 1958 tracks were almost certainly fake. Obviously, I can't say for sure. I've dug around. It's interesting. If you go to let's see, if you look up Raymond Wallace, that is this guy, and you look through it, it says, however, basically what happened was his kids, and I know I'm spoiling Friday's video a little bit, but I won't go through all of the details. Plus, I know you guys will watch. I know how this is. You guys will watch it because you want to hear all of it. And this is little bits and pieces. But yeah, so, Toledo, Washington. I should fix that. I have Toledo, California in my notes. But yeah, so this part says that his family said he was in possession of large, poorly crafted, obviously fake wooden feet. And I will say a lot of the tracks I've seen, for the most part, from 1958 do look pretty rudimentary. There's no real ridges. I mean, again, they're footprints in dirt, so how detailed are they really going to be? But the interesting part was that it says here, however, Chris Murphy notes that Ed Schillinger, who is the only living witness from the Bluff Creek job, and who considers himself almost an adopted son of the man, strongly disputes the family's allegations. That supposedly comes from a 2009 book on page 146, where where is it? Here we go. It's Know the Sasquatch / Bigfoot, sequel and update to Meet the Sasquatch. He says that this is on page 146. Now, I was a little skeptical about that, because that's a bold claim to make. So let me really quickly go and find it. Kindle. Oh, Ella, you don't need to do that. You don't need to yell right. Ella. Here we go. Pulling it up. I already have it. So, Ella. 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 Alright. Kindle app for PC, because I can't find it. Download for PC and Mac. This should only take a second. Here's just Find a Grave. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I wanted his Find a Grave. Here he is. So even his page, Ella, dude, Ella, you can't be doing that right now. Okay, you guys, no, Ella, no. Don't make me put the muzzle on. Don't make me put the muzzle on. Good girl. No. 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 This dog, man. Yeah, so here we go. The man who created the Bigfoot phenomenon in 1958 with the help of his brother Wilbur, he carved 16-inch feet-shaped shoes to make tracks. These tracks were then made by Ray and Wilbur, who would wear these shoes on their feet and walk around. In 1958, a man working for a construction company in Humboldt, California, found the footprints, blah, blah, blah. That gets you through to everything. Now, the interesting part is that back in 1958, Wallace was extremely clear that he had not faked them. Basically said, I've already lost a whole bunch of employees from this. Work isn't getting done. I'm losing money. I'm being slandered. Like, it's interesting, to say the least, that there's that much conflict between the official story and what he himself said back in the day. Now, he might have just been a really good prankster and going to every length possible. But the reason I wanted to bring all this up was that I have here the Kindle. I'm gonna quickly log in. Type that password in right. I did. Is it the right password is the question. D2ZW3S, because I'm not a robot. And they want to send me a text too. Whoo boy. Also, I can read a book. Here we go. This is the book in question. Don't need all of this. Already done it. So, allegedly, and I searched through here because what gets me is that up here it says, Ed Schillinger said this. Basically. But if I take the name Ed Schillinger and I copy it, I go over here. Oh, it's still indexing. Basically what it says is that is on page... Oh, there we go. It's finished. 0 matches found. And it says that Ed Schillinger's name and everything Ed Schillinger said is on page 146. But I went to page 146 and, well, there's no mention of Ed Schillinger on the page. There's no mention of the words he attributed to Ed Schillinger on the page. I mean, over here there's nothing. At the bottom there's nothing. If we go to the page before, there's no mention of Schillinger. Here, there's no mention of Schillinger where it's actually talking about Wallace. Part of the other problem is that this, like many books, this is one of the better written ones we've looked at, but like many books that are not written by academics, they don't properly cite anything. I had trouble with Hammerson Peter's book on Nahani for the same reason, because you can't just say stuff and then not cite it. So I went through, tried to find it. Do I think every Bigfoot footprint out there is a hoax? I mean, it would be a lot of hoaxes, but point is, I lean on the side of Wallace did do it because I can't find this Schillinger thing. I'm going to look again tomorrow, but I have a tendency to stay way too long on like little details like that to the detriment of my timing. But yes, that's kind of where we are in that. As for the Gimlin film, this is it stabilized in full HD. And one thing that sticks out to me, I'll give it to you full screen. One thing that sticks out to me is that the people who say that this is real footage of Bigfoot talk about how you can see the quads flexing at the proper time. You can see the shoulder blades moving beneath the fur. And the fact of the matter is, in my opinion, no, you cannot. I mean, I don't see any muscle movement. And something like this would be a lot of lean muscle. But to me, I look at this and I just don't see the stuff that they're talking about. To me, this looks like a dude in a costume. A very well-made costume. Don't get me wrong. I mean, something that gets brought up a lot with this is if we go to Planet of the Apes. 1970. These are the monkey people from Planet of the Apes. And, you know, the suits the suits don't look quite as good, if I'm being honest. You know? That one does. But again, we're not seeing the backs of them. Let's costume. Yeah. It just, to me, when I look at the Planet of the Apes costumes, I mean, they don't look nearly as good, nearly as detailed. These are obviously people. There's one specific image I had earlier that I can't find right now. It's driving me a little nuts. Compare it. What did I look up? It was Philip Morris Bigfoot, I think. Sure. Maybe it was that one. Maybe this one. Go away. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find it on my other computer. But there is a picture. Maybe it was Center for Inquiry. No. All right. Anyway, point is, there's a picture from behind. Let's see, Beneath Planet of the Apes. Maybe if I look up that. Was this it? Here we go. These are cutouts from Beneath the Planet of the Apes. And as you can see, the Planet of the Apes costume, which is a Hollywood costume, not really nearly as high quality. That said, the feet, to me, do not look proper for the footprints. And this was one costume designed for this purpose, as opposed to these costumes, which were, probably dozens and dozens of them for extras to be wearing. So these are going to be cheaper than this one, most likely. But if you look at it, there are some pretty distinct similarities. It's just that this one fits better than this one does. This one appears to be tailored to a person. There's nothing about it that, in my opinion, screams this is real footage. It's just... There's been a lot of people who have tried to debunk that one. Saying that the length of the arms can't be right, that the way the head is shaped can't be right. But here's the thing, if you look at it, if we assume that the person's spine and head are here, there's nothing weird about this gait. This is just somebody leaning forward as they walk, and you probably would lean forward, considering that based on the way this costume is constructed, it would probably be front heavy. There are some other ones. Here's another one that's stabilized. Again, to me, does not look like anything particularly special. Is this,
I'm Bob Gimlin, who was there. Yes, I was backing Roger Patterson up all the time. Well, he had the camera up, working with it. I was riding back.
Ella.
It's a Saturday, sunshiny, bright fall day, October 20th.
Ella, now is not the time to be hungry.
To be exact. And it was just
I know that's what this is.
Sunshiny day.
I know that's what this is. I know you're hungry. I know you're hungry, but you know that in this house we request food when it's food time. Archie does that every day. Every day when Archie's hungry, he comes and gets me. And now you're making Archie angry too, and he's scratching the side of my chair. Do you understand the It does kind of look like the monkey from SpongeBob. That's fair. I do want to take a look at this video really quick too, and go through that and see what he thinks. But first, give me 1 second to feed the dogs because they are screaming. This is what I live with, guys. This is what I live with. Alright, I'll probably just keep talking through this. But yeah, as I've been looking through the 20th century Bigfoot sightings, in my opinion, what you have is people who are definitely seeing something, but it seems that they're imposing some of their own superstitions onto whatever they saw, or possibly embellishing entirely. Also, if we look at the, God, what's his name? The 1924 Canyon incident, the guy who reported all of it and told the story again in the 1960s, trying to think here, he gets a little weird, if I'm being honest. He gets a little strange during his reporting on it. I'm not sure if that's because he was just a little off, or if his son was putting words in his mouth, because, well, it was allegedly dictated, his son was the one doing the recording, so hard to say for sure. Either way, there are people who claim they faked it, and those people are not government officials. Now, of course, the government could easily pay somebody to say they lied, but I don't see any reason why in 1924 the government would see any reason to pay somebody to say they lied, or why they'd pay somebody who's in their 80s to lie years later. It doesn't line up for me. Possible, yeah. Likely. These dogs are absurd, by the way. Didn't want food all day. I get 30 minutes into my stream. What happens? Oh, now it's time for everybody to eat. Isn't that right, you two? Isn't that right? Mongrel? Creatures? Rapscallions? Oh, my nose is running. This is the worst. Get a husky, they said. It'll be fun, they said. They're great companion dogs, they said. They are great companion dogs. She's very loving. This dog is so loyal and so sweet. Archie's just a lot better behaved. Isn't that right, Blake? Isn't that right, you soft little guy? We love both dogs equally. On average. And they do get very high quality food with human grade ingredients. We take good care of the pups. Even if they do sometimes make me crazy. The food they get also is basically like protein oatmeal. Like it has meat in it, but it really feels more like an oatmeal. I had a roommate in college who used to take protein powder, peanut butter, eggs, and oatmeal, and he'd call it broatmeal. He works in government now. So, do with that information what you will. It's in Maryland. Maryland government, so I mean, if you consider Maryland a real state. Personally, I think it's silly that Maryland and Delaware are separate states, and that they're separate from Pennsylvania at all. I mean, it made sense a few hundred years ago when the Catholics needed somewhere to be, but I think the Catholics are doing all right now. They're good, you know? Feel what I'm saying? And yes, if you're wondering, I can just yap. I'm very talented at yapping. It is one of my great strengths. You will never out-yap me. You have. Like, it's happened before. But, for the most part, never been out-yapped. Well, not never, obviously, because I have been out-yapped. But, generally, it is considered difficult to out-yap me. Alright. My headphones still on. They are. Or are they still paired? They are. Woo! Okay. I'm back.
Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were riding horses along the banks of Bluff Creek in northern California's Six Rivers National Forest when they captured a minute-long clip of what appears to be a large, hair-covered female bipedal figure.
All right, either this dude has the most inauthentic voice I've ever heard, or this is AI.
Entering the frame from the left, looking over its right shoulder, and then exiting the camera frame to the right. The footage...
I want to see.
Who the Zodiac most likely is. It's a question that has been asked since 1968. Who was the notorious Zodiac killer? This mysterious figure terrorized the San Francisco...
Ah, it says it's narrated by a person. Do I necessarily believe them? No.
is the most famous, debated, but never conclusively disproven video of a purported Sasquatch. Wherever there are humans, there are Bigfoot legends. Even President Teddy Roosevelt had his own Bigfoot story.
That's questionable.
In today's video,
is that supposed to be Bigfoot? It's definitely not Bigfoot or Sasquatch as we think of it today.
We take a look at Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, the skunk ape, Yowie, or Wendigo, depending on where you come from, but more...
Okay, so the Wendigo and Bigfoot are not remotely the same thing.
Specifically, the Patterson-Gimlin film that is apparently proof of this cryptid's existence. Is the famous film authentic or one of the world's greatest hoaxes? We look at the history behind the film, what the experts say, and what most likely happened when the film was made. Roger Patterson captured something on film in 1967 that has never been completely explained or refuted. The Times Standard newspaper carried the first account of the Patterson-Gimlin film in Eureka, California, on October 20th,
I will say, some of the responses people have to stuff that is... I mean, here's what I'm talking about, right? He was paid by one of the big lumber companies to lie about wearing an ape suit for Patterson as he filmed him walking in it to produce the Patterson-Gimlin film. They're saying experts with computer software have since tested the film where Hieronymus was asked to duplicate the stride he did while Patterson filmed him in the ape suit, and no expert could get any of his limbs, joints to line up anywhere close to that which was captured on film. Not even his torso could be lined up properly. Therefore, it is impossible for Hieronymus to have walked in the ape suit for Patterson to film. Nope! That just means he was unable to replicate it years later. Also, there's probably no source for this. Like, you know, I don't think, we'll see. We'll continue along.
1967, at approximately 9:30 p.m., a reporter received a call from a gasping, out-of-breath Patterson. Patterson stated that he had spent the entire year working on a Bigfoot film.
He was not telling people it was a Bigfoot film.
Approximately 8 hours earlier, he and his assistant Bob Gimlin had encountered a Bigfoot near the confluence of the Bluff and Notice Creeks. Patterson stated that the film they took of this creature was already en route to his hometown of Yakima, Washington, via airmail for processing. The journalist met his deadline for the Saturday morning newspaper with an article titled, "Mrs. Bigfoot is Filmed." The story goes that Patterson and Gimlin rounded a bend in Bluff Creek and observed a giant humanoid creature approximately 80 to 100 feet away. My
Alright.
horse reared and fell, completely flattening a stirrup with my foot caught in it, Patterson said.
Sure.
My foot hurt, but I couldn't think about it because I was jumping up and grabbing the reins to try to control the horse. I saw my camera in the saddlebag and grabbed it out. Patterson stated that the creature was approximately 6.5 to 7 feet tall and weighed approximately 300 to 400 pounds.
Really difficult to say that for sure.
I moved to take the pictures and told Bob to cover me. My gun was still in the scabbard. I'd grabbed a camera instead. The beast had breasts, chestnut hair with a silvery sheen, and an odor comparable to dog out of the rain, rolling in something dead. Patterson and Gimlin were trying to drag their pickup out of the muddy Bluff Creek Basin and heading back to Washington while readers around Humboldt Bay read the out-of-this-world story over breakfast. The following evening, they screened the developed 16mm film to a small audience at the home of Al Diatley, Patterson's brother-in-law and financial benefactor. 4 days later, they screened the film at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver for an audience of anthropologists and zoologists.
This is where we're gonna be either finding some fibs tomorrow, or we're gonna be, yeah, we'll see. Oh, thank you, Rick.
John Abbott, an anthropologist with the Provincial Museum in Victoria, said Tuesday he has some evidence
Oh,
to support
Thornbury's
the
here.
film,
Hey!
wrote reporter Tony Eberts in Vancouver's The Province on October 25th. I went down there. It's a remote region about 100 miles northeast of Eureka 2 months ago and examined many of the footprints, he said. It's either a highly elaborate hoax or some of these hairy humanoids exist, Abbott said. Abbott presented two competing theories. Either Bigfoot exists, or the film is an incredible hoax. John Napier...
This is the weird part to me, is this insistence that it's an incredible hoax. I really don't think it is. I mean, so first of all, we've got Philip Morris, who claimed in 82, that Patterson had called him and ordered a gorilla suit. Unfortunately, it's going to be hard to ever prove or disprove that because both men are dead. So I mean, I look at that and I'm like, all right, that's kind of a pain in the ass. The thing that really gets it for me is that I cannot get past the idea that not a single one of these things has ever been shot and killed, not a single skeleton has ever been found, and that every time they test DNA, it comes up human. Which is why, in my opinion, if Bigfoot's real, Bigfoot's a human being. Definitely multiple human beings.
A primatologist who examined the film at the Smithsonian Institution a few weeks later, proposed a third possibility. Bigfoot may exist even if the film is a hoax.
Yes, there we go.
Patterson generated an uproar wherever he...
Oh, local legends Burt Moran says, I think it's interesting how many people claim to see Bigfoot every year. Also, when missing kids that are later found say a big hairy man took care of them. Thank you, by the way. Oh, of course, dude. Yeah, so the missing kids thing is definitely interesting. If you were a 4-year-old and somebody with a bushy beard and long hair captured, we'll say captured you, you'd probably describe them as hairy. I think when people describe Bigfoot as hairy, we're typically not, like, the people who actually saw something, I think we're not seeing something that was that hairy. It's hard to say for sure.
He screened the footage. Skeptics accused Patterson of forgery and claimed he orchestrated the entire incident because he could not secure adequate funding for his other Bigfoot projects. The infamous footage did earn him a substantial amount of money, though.
That's the thing.
9 months after the Bluff Creek encounter, Napier narrated the first mass media examination of Bigfoot, a BBC documentary titled Bigfoot, America's Abominable Snowman. Is there a Bigfoot? Napier says in conclusion. Personally, I'd like to think there was. From my point of view, it's good scientific policy to keep at least part of one's mind open. I've allotted about 5% of mine on this particular issue. For evidence of the authenticity of a film of this magnitude, one must seek out first-hand sources who can corroborate the story. Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin are the most logical first-hand sources for the Bluff Creek account. Patterson stuck to his story until his death from cancer in 1972. In 1968, he submitted to a lie detector test as a
That's just meaningless.
prerequisite for National Wildlife Magazine's coverage called The Search for Bigfoot. Although the results have not been made public, it's safe to say that he passed the test, or the article wouldn't have been approved for publication.
Again, passing a lie detector test is useless.
Gimlin, now in his 90s, remained silent for decades before speaking out in interviews and public appearances to confirm the story he told in 1967.
Hey, you two. Hello.
Are there any other sources that have provided evidence to support the claims made by Patterson and Gimlin? Did anyone see them in the Bluff Creek area? Did they speak with family and friends before or after the filming? And did they say anything to support the authenticity or fabrication of their experience? Patterson's information source in Humboldt County was Al Hodgson. Hodgson ran the Willow Creek Variety Store and kept Patterson informed of local Bigfoot sightings.
Oh my God,
Patterson
you two.
and Gimlin made their way to the area in 1960. Was Al Hodgson. Hodgson ran the Willow Creek Variety Store and kept Patterson informed of local Bigfoot sightings. Patterson and Gimlin made their way to the area in 1967 because of Hodgson's report about footprints discovered in September near Blue Creek Mountain Road. Hodgson, who passed away in 2018, verified numerous times that Patterson and Gimlin arrived in Willow Creek around 6:30 p.m. on October 20th to tell him of their amazing encounter. Bob Titmus, a taxidermist and tracker from Redding, California, drove to the Bluff Creek site 9 days after the footage was filmed. Titmus, a Bigfoot devotee since 1958, cast 10 footprints in plaster and drew a map of the creature's movements in 1967. Greg Long...
So, that one's interesting. He was involved in the original investigation in 1958. And in 1958, if there's more evidence that the 1958 one was a hoax than that it wasn't a hoax. I mean, it seems very likely that Raymond Wallace did fake it. Who knows why? Could have been because he wanted to try and get insurance money. Could have been just a prank. A number of reasons. But it doesn't really matter. The majority of the evidence suggests that the footprints were fake. So if Titmus thought that the fake footprints were real, he's kind of a useless source for this one.
Conducted extensive interviews with Patterson's colleagues and family 30 years after the event. While the majority of his sources in the Yakima area described Patterson as unconventional, deceitful, and negligent, no one in the family claimed to have inside information that the Bluff Creek film was a forgery. Al Diatley, the Yakima construction tycoon who married Patterson's sister, told Long he had doubts about the film's authenticity, but he never directly questioned Patterson about it. Roger believed there was a Bigfoot. No doubt about it, Diatley said. I don't think he would claim it to be morally wrong to fake it, to make enough money to prove it. He didn't take any of the money he made and increase the standard of living for him or his children.
And that right there, that right there is why I think it's fake. I think that Patterson believed in Bigfoot. I think he needed a way to prove Bigfoot was real, and the best way to acquire funding for that would be to catch a short glimpse of Bigfoot out in the wild.
Atley theorized that if the film were a hoax, Bob Gimlin would be the most probable candidate for the person in the ape suit. The integrity of the Patterson-Gimlin footage has become a decades-long war of words and theories between various disciplines. Anthropologists, primatologists, film and costume makers, and countless amateur commentators have weighed in on the real versus hoax debate.
I mean, it's a human gate, for
for
sure.
and against arguments in the experts' opinions of these various disciplines. We, the Bad Things crew, will give you the best of each to form your own opinion, so please comment below and tell us what you think.
Oh my god.
Let's start with the experts
This is a
in
long
the movie
intro.
industry. Patterson, Gimlin, and Diatley screened the film for Dale Sheets, director of the documentary film department, and unidentified technicians at Universal Studios Special Effects Department. They concluded, we could try faking it, but we would have to create a completely new system of artificial muscles and find an actor who could be trained to walk like that. It might be done, but we would have to say that it would be almost impossible. If it is a man in an ape suit, it's a very good one, a job that would take a lot of time and money to produce.
Again, if we go back to the video itself,
What you're looking at is an ink.
where's the stabilized one? Here's one of them. If we look at it, you don't see fake muscles moving at all. You just see that it's bulky.
John Green, who owned a first-generation copy of the original Patterson film, interviewed Disney executive Ken Peterson, who, after watching the Patterson film, stated that their technicians would not be able to duplicate the film. Therefore, if Disney employees could not duplicate the film, it is unlikely that Patterson could have done so. One author
I also really don't like that line of argument because, again, they could have. You know? They absolutely could have replicated that. I don't know why they're saying that they couldn't. It's just so strange to me.
wrote, Byrne cited his trip to Walt Disney Studios in 1972, where Disney's chief of animation and 4 assistants viewed Patterson's footage and praised it as a beautiful piece of work, although they said it must have been shot in a studio. When Byrne told them it had been shot in the woods of Northern California, they shook their heads and walked away.
Those aren't even arguments for. Those are just arguments that people said some stuff.
Professional rivalry
Ella! Yes, like 10 minutes ago.
is exceptionally competitive in Hollywood, and this rivalry doesn't exclude opinions on the Bigfoot footage. Stan Winston is an Academy Award-winning film special effects supervisor and makeup artist best known for his contributions to the Terminator franchise, the Jurassic Park films, Aliens, The Thing, the first 2 Predator films, and many others.
So this is the kind of guy who's going to know a lot about what's feasible. Also, I'd like to point out that, I mean, let's really quickly go back to the for and against, right?
Dale Sheets, director of the documentary film department, and unidentified technicians at Universal Studios Special Effects Department.
So the only named person here was...
Film department. Patterson, Gimlin, and Diatley screened the film for Dale Sheets, director of the documentary film department, and
director of the documentary film department. First of all, that doesn't even necessarily mean that the guy is a director of film. In fact, I mean, we can look him up. Let's do it. Let's look the guy up. Dale Sheets. American television executive. Manager for musicians. Executive. Personal manager. It looks, from what I can tell, just from a really quick run through here, is that Dale Sheets was not in any way a special effects artist. Let's see. Studio executive, manager. Yeah, from what I can tell, it looks like this guy wasn't involved in the actual filmmaking process at all. Let's see. All right, okay. At the age of 21, he was promoted to film director at a local TV news station. International Ventures Incorporated. Wait a second. All right. It looks like he was briefly in directorial work, but then moved into management. There's nothing about him ever having special effects experience. Ooh, my neck. Yeah, I mean, it just... Does he have a... Dale Sheets. Let's take a look. Yeah, I mean, the guy has no directing credits at all. So... I just don't see...
And unidentified technicians at Universal Studios Special Effects Department. They concluded, we could try faking it, but we would have to create a completely new system of artificial muscles and find an actor who could be trained to walk like that.
So basically, first of all, walk like that, it's just walking. There's nothing special about the way it's walking. To me, it looks like these are words that Patterson probably put into their mouths, because once again, Dale Sheets, as far as I can tell, had no special effects experience, and nobody else was named. Anonymous sources are as useless in Bigfoot research as they are in political news.
It might be done, but we would have to say that it would be almost impossible. If it is a man in an ape suit, it's a very good one. A job that would take a lot of time and money to produce.
Nope. Just no. Suit's pretty simple.
John Green, who owned a first-generation copy of the original Patterson film, interviewed Disney executive Ken Peterson, who owned a copy of the original Patterson film, interviewed Disney executive...
So a guy with a copy of the film interviewed a Disney executive,
who, after watching the Patterson film, stated that their technicians would not be able to duplicate the film. Therefore, if Disney employees could not duplicate the film, it is unlikely that Patterson could have done so.
All right, hang on. What was this guy's name?
Money to produce. John Green, who owned a first-generation copy of the original Patterson film, interviewed Disney executive
Ken Peterson. Okay. Keep in mind...
Ken Peterson, who, after watching the Patterson film, stated... Interviewed Disney executive Ken Peterson, who, after watching the Patterson film, stated... that their technicians would not be able to duplicate the film. Therefore, if Disney employees could not...
I thought there was something in there. Yeah, he was in charge of animated productions. In fact, I'm looking through all of his credits, and it seems that essentially every single one of Ken Peterson's credits was in animation. That's not costume design. That's not physical special effects. Ugh, it drives me insane.
Not duplicate the film, it is unlikely that Patterson could have done so. One author wrote, Byrne cited his trip to Walt Disney Studios in 1972, where Disney's chief of animation and 4 assistants viewed Patterson's footage and praised it as a beautiful piece of work, although they said it must have been shot in a studio.
So now we have a quote from a guy who wrote a book saying what these other guys said. This is not a quote, by the way. This is a paraphrase. And again, the person they're quoting was a director of animation, not a physical special effects guy. Now, here I'll say this, if they took it to Lucasfilm 10 years later, if they took this to Lucasfilm or God, what was the name of their production? Was it ILM? Yeah, ILM, I think. Yep, there it is. If they took it to ILM 10 years later, and ILM said we can't do this, then I'd be willing to consider. You know, if the guys who made the Chewbacca costume said we can't do this, then I'm willing to consider what they have to say.
When Byrne told them it had been shot in the woods of Northern California, they shook their heads and walked away. Professional rivalry is exceptionally competitive in Hollywood, and this rivalry doesn't exclude opinions on the Bigfoot footage. Stan Winston is an Academy Award-winning film specialist.
I'm 50-50 on something existing. I'm not 50-50 on this specific Bigfoot existing.
Effects supervisor and makeup artist best known for his contributions to the Terminator franchise, the Jurassic Park films, Aliens, The Thing, the first two Predator films, and many others. After seeing the footage,
That's
he
a
stated,
lot.
"It's a guy in a bad hairsuit. Sorry." He added, "If one of my colleagues created this for a movie, he would be out of business." He went on to say that the suit in the film could have been manufactured for a few $100s or less than $1,000 back then. If this footage is proof of a new humanoid to science, anthropologists and zoologists would surely be the most logical experts to give a definitive opinion on the creature's existence. As with the filmmakers, there is
I mean, the guy from Jurassic Park saying no is equivalent for me to somebody from ILM saying no.
no overwhelming consensus either.
All right.
On the 50th anniversary of the film's release in 2017, Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University, stated, "It's all so easy to say. Obviously, that's a man
Meldrum I've come across.
in a fursuit. Until you see it up against a man in a fursuit." The History Channel's The Proof Is Out There episode titled Bigfoot Revealed tasked a group of researchers with determining once and for all whether the Patterson-Gimlin film is genuine or a hoax, using the most advanced technology available in 2017. Using cutting-edge technology and artificial intelligence, a frame-by-frame analysis of Bigfoot's movements was performed on the film. Dr. Meldrum, the computer scientist Isaac Tian, zoologist Roxy Furman, and anthropologist Kathy Strain participated in the analysis. "There are details that are very distinctive of the way in which this patty creature walks," said Meldrum. "One of the characteristics that seem to distinguish the Sasquatch foot from the human is the lack of an arch
Yes. And why might you have a lack of a realistic human arch?
longitudinal arch, which is kind of a springboard, creating a more stable platform in the human foot." Meldrum added, "That lead foot where you can see this upward turning of the toes at the last part of the swing phase just before the foot comes in contact with the substrate. This is a remarkable detail that the film has made more evident."
Wait. That lead foot where you can see this upward turning of the toes at the last part of the swing just before the foot comes in contact with the substrate. This is a remarkable detail that the film has made more evident. That's how you walk! That's just how a person walks! Also, here, can we find the... Here it is. Precisely what is he talking about? We get exactly... Here, let's... Ready? We can see the foot. There's nothing there! It's just somebody walking, putting their heel down first, and then going to their toe. They're walking the way people walk. It's literally how you'd walk if you were wearing oversized shoes.
The professor also stated, "I am struck as an anatomist by the massive size of these trapezius muscles and their intermediate attachment on the back of the skull. This is not a human configuration at all, but something that is intermediate between a human and a great ape."
Mm-hmm. That's not an argument for. That's just an argument that whoever made the suit made a gorilla suit.
Many scientists who have studied the footage have said it is a hoax, but one stands above the rest. A man who has been a staunch proponent of the existence of cryptid creatures. Bernard Heuvelmans was a Belgian-French scientist, explorer, researcher, and author. Along with the Scottish-American biologist Ivan T. Sanderson, he is regarded as the founder of cryptozoology. The self-proclaimed father of cryptozoology believed the creature in the Patterson film to be a human in costume. The film subject's hair flow pattern was too uniform, its breast hair was not primate-like, its glutes were not adequately separated, and its retreat from the pursuing men was too calm, according to his criticisms. What do we think most likely happened? Every aspect surrounding this story needs to be taken into account, not just the footage, and when digging deeper,
Every aspect of this story needs to be taken into account, except the literal 400 years of documentation of Native American stories about Bigfoot that don't match this.
we have evidence that this may be one of the greatest hoaxes ever. Patterson and Gimlin became the most fortunate Bigfoot hunters in history when, in the early afternoon of October 20th, the creature obligingly emerged from the woodlands and crossed the clearing for Patterson's camera. Gimlin pursued it on horseback, lost it, but discovered its footprints. They then rode approximately 5 kilometers back to camp to retrieve their plaster of Paris. They rode back, poured plaster into the imprint, waited for it to cure, and then returned to camp. They loaded their horses onto the trailer and traveled 40 kilometers on rugged, muddy roads back to Willow Creek before mailing the film to be developed in Yakima. The apparent impossibility of the chronology of events on the day of filming initially aroused skeptics' suspicions.
How could it be faster to mail something? How could it be faster to... Okay, so mailing something typically takes 3 to 5 days. Even if we assume they paid for business class, it's an 11-hour drive from Bluff Creek to Yakima. Like, why would they mail it? That doesn't even make sense. I mean, unless the goal was to remain in the area and see if they could find the thing again, but...
In response, Patterson and Gimlin began to provide different versions of their story.
Ah.
Other skeptic cryptozoologists, such as Peter Byrne, discovered gaps and inconsistencies in these accounts. Patterson and Gimlin ultimately decided that they loaded the film onto an airplane and flew it to Yakima, where Al Diatley picked it up to be developed. Byrne discovered that the only charter aircraft that could have flown that route that day were grounded due to inclement weather. Since then, few researchers have taken Patterson and Gimlin's accounts seriously. However, the film was a sensation and continues to generate licensing fees to this day. Diatley supported Patterson and founded Bigfoot Enterprises on November the 1st, just 10 days after the film came to light, and reported a first-year profit of $200,000.
Part of me wonders if Diatley was behind all of this. Could leave Patterson and Gimlin out of it entirely. If you're funding the trip, you know where all the money's going. You know where they're going to be. You could pay somebody else to go walk in the Bigfoot suit. You know? He had the money. And then they made a ton of money off of the video.
As mentioned before,
Also, founded Bigfoot Enterprises on November 1st. You're telling me this guy managed to found a company in just 10 days? I mean, even if he managed to get all of the paperwork in, they don't work on weekends, which means that you're going to have probably 6 to 8 business days here. And there are people who handed in their stuff earlier. So precisely how, I'm not saying it's impossible. It just seems extraordinarily unlikely to me that they waited until they got the footage to found the company, you know?
Of $200,000. As mentioned before.
Wait, how long did it take us? Let me pull up LegalZoom really quick. Oh boy, why are we zoomed in like that? Alright, so if I pull up LegalZoom and I go to redacted media. Okay. Yes?
She has the pocket.
Okay.
I'm gonna go take it.
Sounds good. All right. I know. I know how it is.
Do you?
I mean, I have been told. All right. Love you too. I can't remember exactly when we applied for our LLC, but I know it took a couple of days. And I can't find the actual, like, document that was sent in. But point is, unlikely that he managed to found a company in just 10 days.
Author Greg Long investigated the complete story. Over 6 years, he met with all of the characters who were still alive and numerous other people, including anyone he could find who knew Patterson or was involved with the film. In his book, The Making of Bigfoot, The Inside Story, he detailed his entire experience. What he discovered made for riveting reading. Patterson had been traveling to Hollywood frequently, attempting to promote the concept of a Bigfoot pseudo-documentary based on his 1966 self-published book, Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist?
Fascinating.
The studios were not interested, but the wildlife film company A&E was. With their funds, Patterson rented a camera and captured pre-production stills of his friends, purportedly on a Bigfoot search, but in his backyard. The proposed title of A&E's film was Bigfoot, America's Abominable Snowman. Bob Hieronymus, a 26-year-old laborer, lived directly across the street from Bob Gimlin. One day, Gimlin told Hieronymus that Patterson would pay him $1,000 for a day of costumed labor on a film set. Hieronymus jumped at the opportunity. A couple of times, he got together with the men to test the gorilla outfits and make some alterations. The following day, he drove to Willow Creek. He spent the night at...
So that matches up with Philip Morris's recounting of events, which was that he was asked for changes to be made to the costume several times.
...their camp, and they shot the footage the next day. A&E's funds were used to purchase the gorilla costume. It was produced by well-known manufacturers of gorilla outfits for carnivals, Philip and Amy Morris.
Yep.
They told Greg Long that they had recognized the suit when they saw Patterson's film on television, and that Patterson asked for their assistance in extending the suit's limbs. They had even sent him additional Dynel synthetic fur.
Now, I will say, if they can dig up the actual original record, the invoice for this, it's over. It's done.
In addition, he was advised to add football headgear and shoulder padding to the suit wearer to make him appear bigger. Unsurprisingly, when Greg Long questioned Hieronymus about the garment, he also mentioned wearing football headgear and shoulder padding underneath it. Hieronymus returned home, where his mother and 2 siblings also saw the suit and patiently waited for his $1,000. Patterson never paid Hieronymus. Hieronymus was afraid that he would be prosecuted for fraud because he participated in making the film when he realized how successful the picture was. As a result, he did not make any other attempts to collect his money, and he never disclosed his part in the film to anybody. For Patterson to eventually return the camera used to film the movie, the camera store had to press charges of theft against him. A&E lost their entire investment. Patterson promptly abandoned their collectors. A&E used to film the part in the film to anybody. For Patterson to eventually return the camera used to film the movie, the camera store had to press charges of theft against him. A&E lost their entire investment. Patterson promptly abandoned their collective pseudo-documentary and, in essence, took the film footage that was legitimately their intellectual property. It wasn't until 30 years later that Greg Long was able to put together the entire story by interviewing everyone who played a role in the incident. However, there are still some gaps in the story. Al Diatley asserts that he has no recollection of where, when, or how he allegedly developed or received the film from his brother-in-law, and no receipts for the footage development have ever surfaced. The Patterson-Gimlin footage has been viewed, scrutinized, and second-guessed hundreds of millions of times, but only copies of the original, adding to the mysteriousness of the footage.
Wait, what? What happened? Wait, what was removed? Wait, what was removed? Why would I ban you from History Hut? Okay, to be fair, I adjust the volume as we go, and as people tell me it needs to be louder or quieter, and I can only get it so close. Also, why is the donation bar having problems? There we go.
Footage is that the original is missing. Patterson had transferred ownership of the original to American National Enterprises, which filed for bankruptcy a few years after his passing in 1972. Greg Long subsequently states, Peregrine Entertainment bought the company. Then Peregrine was bought by Century Group of Los Angeles. When Century Group went bankrupt in 1996, Byrne rushed to Deerfield Beach, Florida, where an accountant was auctioning off the company's assets to pay creditors. The company's films were in storage in Los Angeles, but a search failed to turn up the Patterson footage. Convenient, or just another coincidence? We'll let you decide. If you love our content and want to support the channel, feel free to check.
What?
Had transferred ownership of the original is that the original is missing.
Ah.
Patterson had transferred ownership of the original to American National Enterprises, which filed for bankruptcy a few years after his passing in 1972. Greg Long subsequently states, Peregrine Entertainment bought the company. Then Peregrine was bought by Century Group of Los Angeles. When Century Group went bankrupt in 1996...
But why do you want me to ban you from History Hut? That's what I don't understand.
Byrne rushed to Deerfield Beach, Florida, where an accountant was auctioning off the company's assets to pay creditors. The company's films were...
This is the thing. It's and part of the issue is this is the same as it is with Flat Earth, with Tartaria, whatever. No matter how many times you conclusively prove something is fake, unless they were there when it happened, they're never going to believe it. I mean, we have photos of the Earth from space. We have documentation about what is supposedly Tartarian. No person in their right mind can look at that video and say it's impossible to fake this. Ugh. Oh, and man, my nose is not feeling great tonight. But yeah, so this is one thing I think is very funny, is videos like this are always like, they got a clear image of Bigfoot. And then there is never an actually clear image of Bigfoot. That appears to be a man in a ghillie suit. That is 100% a person. Like, that is a dude in a fursuit. That is 100% a man in a fursuit. Oh boy. Let's see what else we've got. Let's see what else. Here's the other thing. Every Bigfoot sighting looks different. There's a Watch Mojo one, but probably not going to do that. Alarming footage ever captured on a Ring camera. Okay. What's this? It's taking a while to load. All right. What is it, though? Why is this segment so long? Okay, so some dude out in the snow. I'll make it bigger so you guys can see what's going on. It's just looks like a dude in the snow. Trying to fix the size of that. There we go. Yeah, that's just a guy. This is not Bigfoot at all.
Alright, I'll show you the back.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, these are actually several different videos from different people. Those sheds don't even look like they're in the same place either.
I'm not sure. Can't see it on my phone. I feel like I can see something. Right, like, bathroom, and they're there. Obviously not going to the door. From the end, I'm gonna keep an eye on it.
I just wanted to show you guys how good this works.
Can't even hear what she's saying. Sheesh.
Holy shit. I'll show you the back too, but what is that? Oh, it's my light. Thought it was a skunk. Like, look at it in the sky. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's a very bright flashlight. We get it.
All right, I'll show you the back. With no. Okay, here it is without the light. Of course, I don't have the screen out, so it's kind of hard to see. Hold on a second. Okay, I had to remove the screen so I could see.
That's a different
I'm
shed
sorry,
from before.
guys, I didn't end up going live far with this. I haven't heard anything. My porch and everything. Sound like the strobe light thing.
It's just several minutes of her not seeing anything.
My whole room. Corner. And right there, I keep hearing something out front.
Send me a video about Bigfoot on Discord. I will take a look. see. Real Bigfoot footage. Here we go. What do we got? No audio. Oh.
Bigfoot. Do you see it? Look at it.
All right, let's skip ahead and see if at any point they actually show the thing.
What's he doing?
I mean, it looks like a bear to me. Yeah, you're telling me they didn't continue to film?
What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing out there? Well, you guys know I love
See,
to
now the video's too
places,
loud.
and as I'm traveling and searching the back roads and the highways and byways of this great country, I'm always on the lookout for Bigfoot.
Also, I'm not sure why the hell...
Another Bigfoot sighting in Cumberland, Ohio.
Yo! What is going on with my computer right now? Like, everything's running really slowly for no reason at all.
Sasquatch, Bigfoot in Augusta, Kentucky. I seen Bigfoot in Geneva, Ohio. Another Sasquatch sighting in Geneva, Ohio. The Bigfoot sightings in Geneva by the lake
Weird.
are many. There's been another spotting.
Is this just him showing the places that he's seen Bigfoot shadows? Okay, that's not helpful. I do have a Windows update. That might be it. I remember seeing this one.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care. I'm making a fucking video on this. One thing
Why
you
is
guys
he
might
so
not know
angry?
about me is I love anything to do with like Bigfoot, aliens, mermaids, the Loch Ness Monster. There's no fucking way, dude. Look at it squat down and look how well it just blends into its surroundings.
Yeah, that's
this
a
is real. Like, I'm
dude
not
in a
kidding.
gorilla suit.
This is fucking real. Look how far away they are and look how big this thing is. With how far away they were filming this. This is no man in a costume. That is no man in a fucking costume.
That is 100% a man in a costume. Like, it's so blurry. Just no. Footage of his facial features. It's looking directly at the camera. Like, it's looking straight at the camera. Bigfoot sighting, here we go.
Get my gear off.
Come on.
I grab my bow. I raise up. seemed like 5 minutes. Yeah, it was staring back for a long time. At that point, I knew it wasn't a bear. Give me the camera. Oh.
Yeah, let me drop my weapon and charge towards the wild creature that is 9 feet tall.
Eric, get out. Get my bow. Get out. Eric, come here. Where's my bow? Oh my god. I tripped. Oh my god. I tripped on the bow. Oh my god. What was that? I told you that wasn't a freaking bear.
Alright, here we go.
I want to look at the footage one more time.
That one's not even a good gorilla suit. I'd love to hear you have a chat with Timothy Renner from the Strange Familiars podcast. He runs a Bigfoot festival called Albtwitch in PA every year. I can take a look at it.
The camera.
Yeah, no, I mean... Come on, dude. That's like a Halloween gorilla costume. When was this released? Is it April 1st? Ella! Oh my god, dude! What? Why are you screaming? Don't worry about it. I'll handle her. Just, like, calm down, dude. Relax. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Ugh. Yeah, I mean... I'm not more convinced. Okay, I could make that sound. That would be harder to make. But there's also other animals it could be. Like basically anything in the deer family. I mean, that first one... I'll turn it up for you guys. There's a lot of clipping in here, too. Yeah, I mean, that just sounds like a moose. Yeah, again, these just sound like deer. Not like white-tailed deer, but the broader deer family. Okay, not seeing any rocks being thrown at the camera. Yeah, those are easy sounds for a human to replicate. Yeah, that's just a person. How often do you make sounds when you're completely alone? Like, how often do you just find yourself grunting? For no reason. Oh, hang on, Puppy Bear, let me look for it. Where'd you send it? Ah, the Gigantopithecus one. All right, let's close out with that bad boy because we're not getting any actual Bigfoot footage, clearly. By the way, that sound you're hearing, the clipping audio, that's from the video. Which is weird. It really shouldn't be doing that. I have not heard the audio that's on the Joe Rogan Experience. If you can send me a link, I can take a look at it, though. Yeah, there's just nothing. Yeah, none of this seems real, you know? Like,
there is a figure there.
oh, wait.
It is either a human or a Bigfoot.
Wait, maybe that is my...
Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the most believable
Bro,
footage
what is
of the
going
mythical
on with
Bigfoot.
my computer right now? Here we go. Come on.
In 1935, Hong Kong, which was a British colony at the time, was approaching 1 million in population. A variety
It keeps
of
saying
ships
headset
filled the
paired,
deep
but the
protected
headset is not
waters
paired.
of Victoria Harbour. On land, buses, trams, trains, and rickshaws
there we go.
carried people to and fro. In about a year, the first commercial airline would touch down in Hong Kong. Among the hustle and bustle of the streets were courts, hotels, post offices, shops, city hall complexes, museums, libraries, and of course some drugstores. In one such store, a man named Gustav Heinrich Ralph von Koenigswald was on the hunt for something very special. Despite being a drugstore, Ralph was not looking for any cure or remedy. He was searching for fossils. A paleontologist and geologist, Ralph had been obsessed with fossils from a young age and started his collection when he was just 15 years old when he got his hands on a rhinoceros molar. Browsing
Well, the issue with my headphones and the issue with the computer are completely separate.
through the store of traditional remedies, Ralph was about to find something incredible. Ralph's curiosity was grabbed when he noticed items labeled dragon bones. The bones weren't reptilian though, they were from an ape. In fact, the molar tooth was somewhat similar to a human's, but it was significantly bigger. What kind of a giant left behind a tooth this big? Ralph decided to give the owner of this giant tooth the name Gigantopithecus blacki. Gigantopithecus meaning giant ape, and Blackie in honor of Canadian paleoanthropologist Davidson Black, who studied human evolution in China and had died the previous year. Ralph realized there had to be more teeth, so he spent the next 4 years checking similar stores for these dragon bones, and whenever he found them, he purchased them before they could be used in some traditional medicine.
What is going on with my fucking headphones? Come on. I actually see the Trade the Explainer one down here. I'm concerned about clicking on it.
Medicine. Upon collecting more samples and doing some investigations, he realized that the teeth could have been from Guangdong or Guangxi. Unfortunately for him, his work on Gigantopithecus and other finds would be halted. During the Second World War, Ralph was in Java studying specimens that would eventually be recognized as Homo erectus when the Japanese army invaded. Before being sent to an internment camp, Ralph did his best to hide his fossils, and apparently he did a pretty good job as only one was found and confiscated. Supposedly the fossil was presented to the emperor. Because of this setback, further research on Gigantopithecus wouldn't progress until the 50s. While Ralph was imprisoned, other scientists attempted to classify this large ape. Robert Broom, a paleontologist from South Africa, thought that it might have been closely related to Australopithecus, and that it might have been the last common ancestor of humans and other apes. The anthropologist Franz Wiedenreich thought that it should actually be called Giganthropus, meaning giant man instead of giant ape. He believed that at some point, our ancestors had gone through a gigantic phase. By the way, maybe we should talk about how gigantic this giant was.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The first time I heard about this ape was actually from a friend who told me they had seen a documentary about an ape that was discovered that would have been as large as King Kong. And to be fair to the friend, articles online will often describe Gigantopithecus as a real King Kong, but it wasn't quite that gigantic. Different papers give different heights, but the estimated range of a standing Gigantopithecus was probably between 2.7 to 3.7 meters, so about 9 to 12 feet. And a study done in 2017 estimated a body mass of 200 to 300 kilos, 440 to 660 pounds. I should probably mention that from examining mandibles and upper canines from suspected male and female specimens, it would seem that there is a degree of sexual dimorphism, in that males are bigger than females. We see this in many modern-day apes, like gorillas. Returning to the early 50s though, in 1952, Ralph agreed with the consensus at the time that the ape was hominin, but he thought it was more of an offshoot rather than a human ancestor. The debate on how we should classify this large ape continued on until the mid-80s, when the out-of-Africa hypothesis began to take hold. Now, the out-of-Africa hypothesis, or at least a version of it, had been floating around for a while, but it gained more traction in the mid-80s when paleoanthropologists like Günter Brauer from Germany and Chris Stringer from the UK began to indicate that the earliest fossils that resemble members of our species came from southern and eastern Africa. While there are some disagreements over the timing and the routes of dispersal used by early humans, DNA comparisons and fossils strongly support
this dude's
that Africa
video
was the
is 100% going to get this video copyright claimed. I don't know how these guys do this.
Of modern-day humans. So where should we put our big cousin on the family tree? Well, in modern times, we would put Gigantopithecus in the subfamily Ponginae, and its closest living relative would be orangutans. A paper published in November 2019 for Nature examined the enamel on a Gigantopithecus molar and found that it was indeed related to orangutans. But if orangutans are still around, for now at least, why aren't their gigantic cousins still alive too? Well, while being big...
So part of why all of this seems reasonable is that the Earth's atmospheric content used to be different. The amount of nitrogen and oxygen in the air, the temperature, all of these different things have adjusted themselves over the ages. So, more oxygenated environment means bigger people, bigger animals, bigger everything.
Does have some advantages. For one thing, you'd be more intimidating to a predator. It also has some pretty notable disadvantages. Gigantopithecus would probably have needed to eat a lot of food, not just because it was big, but also because it most likely had a higher metabolic rate, being warm-blooded. This ape seemed to prefer feasting on fruits and leaves, which was fine until it got to the period of the Pleistocene when these food sources started to become more scarce. The forested areas Giganto lived in started to turn into savanna landscapes. But that's not the only issue. In an interview for National Geographic, computer scientist Aaron Closet examined another problem with being big. He has studied the body sizes of thousands of species. When talking about size, he said, "It's not just that a bigger body requires more food. As you get bigger, you tend to have fewer children. That means your population tends to be smaller and more sensitive to fluctuations." These factors combined could explain why Gigantopithecus went extinct 300,000 to 100,000 years ago. Unless. Now, I wasn't sure if I should talk about this, as it might be a bit controversial, but since it has been brought up by people like David Attenborough in his Natural History Museum live show, and there's even a section about it on the Gigantopithecus Wikipedia page, let's take a look at the idea that Gigantopithecus is alive as Bigfoot. Now, this video
this is my problem with Bigfoot. I do not believe for a second that there is a 9-foot tall species of ape living in the continental United States and Canada that does not exist in populations large enough for us to find. You know? I mean, it's just entirely improbable. Something that is our size, or perhaps slightly larger than we are, 7 feet, that seems doable. That would explain why we never find Bigfoot fossils. Skeletons. Why we never find, Bigfoot hair. Why it's always humans. Every single time. It's either animals, like known animals, or humans. Every time. I mean, have we ever found Gigantopithecus here? Have where'd it go? Did Gigantopithecus live in North America? Okay, so looks like, okay, yeah, they've never found it in the Americas. And I mean, the route they would have to take to get to the Americas would have taken it very far out of the tropical climate that it lived in and up into glaciers before it crossed ice to get to a colder part of the planet. It just doesn't make sense. See, it's 7 and 9 feet are both giant and both noticeable. It's the caloric intake required for that being to survive, as well as the size of a breeding population. You can miss a population of 7-foot tall people. You can't miss a population of 9-foot tall people in the fossil record. There's just, I mean, you're within the human body's range at 7 feet. Somebody finds a 7-foot long femur, they're going to say, wow, that was a tall person. Somebody not 7-foot tall long femur. Somebody finds an exceptionally long femur, but, it could be from a 7-foot tall person. You're not going to think anything of it. You find an exceptionally long femur, and when I say exceptionally long, I mean 3 feet. Then you're going to start asking questions about where this thing came from. So, it might be CO2 that makes things bigger. I think the only non-human apes in North America were the ones that were here 26 million years ago. So, but, alright, that said, it is almost 9 p.m. and I am sick. My nose and my head hurt. My throat hurts. So, thank you guys for hanging out. I'm going to call it here. We'll be back with some more gaming tomorrow. I don't know exactly what game. It might be Helldivers. It might be Lethal Company. Might just be Warzone because I haven't had a chance to play Call of Duty in a while and I miss it. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but thank you all for hanging out. For those who super chat, thank you very much. I don't think I missed any of them. Did I? I'm going to take a look through. Kellen did say it was also shot with a consumer-grade 16mm camera by an amateur and looking overexposed. And who's to say Bigfoot walks like a gorilla? Good points. Okay, Rob Becker, I missed this one, said, I read a book called The Field Guide to Bigfoot and Other Mysterious Primates. It's interesting because it compares species. Some said it looked like a Homo erectus, while others looked like Patty. All right. Okay, I got those ones. Got that one. Is Wendussy safe for Valentine's Day? No. And no, I don't want your lesbian Wendusy bodyguards. And yes, the ape craft did look like a Weezer album. I think that catches everything except Weird Bible, which is coming the final Thursday of this month. Thoughts on Kane being Bigfoot? I mean, it's just entirely the wrong part of the world and not far enough back. And there's too many sightings with too much variety. Suffer not a Xeno to live. Oh, that's from 2 days ago. Yeah, we had a really fun time with Helldivers. I would recommend you try it out if you got the money and the time. That said, Sony, oh my god, not everybody likes to play in third person. Give us a first person option. I know that your fanboys are as rabid as it comes and refuse to ever admit that Sony has gaps. But Sony Studios, please. Third person is a really, really, really bad perspective for shooter games. It's just bad. Especially when the game doesn't have, like, parkour or something that makes it worthwhile to have the third person only angle. It's not Assassin's Creed. It's not Uncharted. It's a shooter. Give me a first person option, you cucks. All right, that said, we're out. Thank you for hanging out, and I will see you on, tomorrow, I guess. Bye, guys.